السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا بفضلك علما. I would like to welcome all of you to this edition of the weekly GPMA webinar, and my name is Muhammad Mustafa Mahmoud. For short, they call me Dr. 3M. I am the academic director of the Global Performance Management Academy on behalf of the academy and the teams in Canada, in Toronto, in Cairo, in Tripoli, in Libya, and in Istanbul, in Turkey, and in Saudi Arabia, Oman, and Emirates. On behalf of all of our team, I would like to welcome you to this webinar. The topic of tonight's webinar is very relevant to the academy methodology of developing and deploying strategic plans. If you go next, Ahmad, next slide. This is the methodology or the approach and the framework which the Global Performance Management Academy follows for developing and deploying strategy. The first three steps are related to developing the strategy, while the remaining the fourth step to the 10th steps are related to the deployment of the strategy. And step, usually, as we have indicated in an earlier, webinar, that 9 out of 10 well-developed strategies fail to be successfully executed. And the reason usually are not because of the quality of the strategy, but the quality of the execution. The topic of tonight is very relevant to this, concept, as if you have a good strategy, but the organizational structure is not aligned with the strategy, or the culture is not aligned with the strategy, or the people in the organization are not aligned, there is no way that this strategy will ever succeed in materializing its mission and vision and objective. For this reason, the topic of tonight is very relevant, especially to step number 5 in the approach that you see, which is leading and managing strategy execution. I would like to thank our guest speaker, Mr. Alauddin Awad, Dr. Alauddin Awad. Dr. Alauddin Awad is an institutional development expert in contact financial holding in Egypt. Dr. Alauddin is the Group Executive Director for HR and Institutional Development since 2007. He has an extended research and consulting experience in both Egypt and Canada. He was an ex-lecturer designated by Sherbrooke University and University of New Brunswick. Dr. Ala is a physician. He's a personality assessor. He's an organizational designer and crisis management scholar. Dr. Ala is a pioneer of job psychological engineering. Very interesting topic. In fact, I was so keen that his first, webinar with GPMA will be about this very interesting topic of psychological engineering, job psychological engineering. However, we decided to start with the topic of tonight, which is very relevant to strategy execution. He's a pioneer of job psychological engineering in Egypt with more than 20 years of applied psychology practice. Dr. Ala is a certified international trainer in many fields. We would like to thank him so much for giving us his time to share with us his experience in this evening webinar. The presentation will be about 45 minutes. After the presentation, if you have any questions, please put them in the question and answer section, and we'll be very happy to address as much as we can of them at the end of the presentation. And I would like to leave the floor to Dr. Ala. So Ahmad, if you give him control, please, to share the presentation from his side. Welcome, ya Doctor. Jazakumullah kull khair.
Thank you, Doctor, for this nice introduction. I appreciate the opportunity that you are giving me. And I'm looking forward to start the presentation. immediately. Thank you all for participating in this webinar. Okay. Aligning structure, culture, and people. In a webinar of 45 minutes, I can't pretend that you will be gaining knowledge or you will be developing skills, but for sure, you will be acquiring a sense of direction in terms of organization management. This is very important to emphasize. I would like to draw your attention that you will be gaining a sense of direction. You will know your organization compass, how to develop organization, in which direction will be thinking, what I am calling thinking outside in or inside out. And we will see the difference between an outside in thinking versus an inside out thinking. So aligning structure, culture, and people. What are the webinar goals? First of all, we would like to understand the relationship. We'd like to understand the relationship between strategy, structure, culture, and people in practice, which is clear in the title of the webinar. And then the second goal is to apprehend one core idea that we build organization outside in and not inside out. So we start by the strategy formulation, then the structure will follow the strategy, then the culture will follow the structure and the strategy, then people will follow the culture, structure, and strategy. It will be clear in the presentation. And we'll be introduced to some useful tools for organization management in general, especially what is called organization dialogue, which is not very common as a practice in the Middle East. It's called also democratic dialogue in organization. We will see what is dialogue as a technique to explore the organizational culture and the socio-cultural system of an organization. The webinar outline will start by the onion model and its operationalization in practice. I am a guy of practice. I come from the field, from the institutional field, not from the academic field. So we will be learning together from experience, and I'll be giving you clues that would be very useful in terms of organization management in a real setting. Formulating apprehending strategies, that's the first of all, the first step. Second step, designing the right structure for strategy implementation, and crafting the right culture to support the right culture, and selecting people whose profile would fit in with the very nature of the strategic challenges that we are facing. And finally, there is a management cycle as applied to all layers of organization. When I say all layers of organization, I mean strategy, structure, culture, and people. We design the future. This is the first principle that you should retain. We don't design the present, we design the future, and we assess the actual setting in the present. Then we analyze the gap between what we would like to realize in a certain future after 5 years, for example, and what is the actual setting. And there is a gap between the present and the future, and how to plan and how to have an action plan in order to manage this gap and to implement an action that would be successful in terms of strategic execution. So from year to year, if the plan is like 5 years long, we will have every year, for example, to reassess and to measure and to use all the indicators, the due indicators, to reassess the actual setting in order to learn from experience and to redesign and to apply like a strategic adjustment and a structural adjustment, maybe a cultural adjustment, and to review our staffing and to be sure that the right person is in the right position or not. Webinar expected outcome. What is the impact of the webinar? It's an immediate impact that will be realized in few minutes. That you will not gain knowledge, as I said, you will not develop skills, but you will be acquiring a sense of direction in terms of organization management, like a compass. What are our pillars, strategy, structure, and culture? We have to define, to use simple definition to define strategy, structure, and culture. What is strategy? A mission statement, usually it summarizes our strategy. It indicates what we ought to deliver to which segment of customers at certain time, in a certain place, for a certain price. So that's in a concrete terms, the summary of our strategy that we display or write in a mission statement. And what is structure? Structure is about how work is organized in order to deliver what we ought to deliver. So structure serves strategy. Structure is like a vehicle in order to implement strategy and to go for the strategy execution. So when we say structure, it's about workflow, processes, division of labor, task differentiation, functional integration, lines of authority, power distance, supervision span, chain of command, horizontal linkage, lines of business, geographical division, and so on. So structure is about all that. And this structure, it takes a design. But organization design is not only about structure, it's about strategy, it's about structure, it's about culture, and it's about people as a human capital. What's culture? Culture is a hierarchy of values or preference, what we like, and including ethics. When we talk about business ethics, it's a part of our culture. Culture, that's something that we like, that we love. Creativity as a value or a culture, it means that even if as a personality, I am not a creative person by nature, but I like creativity. I appreciate creativity. I admire creative people. I would like to participate in a creative work. So that's like creativity for creativity, because it's something in our preference, in our culture. That's creativity as a culture. Creativity as a skills, it's a totally different story. It's about the natural aptitudes of the person, maybe some trainings that would help him realize his creative potential and so on. So that's culture, what we love. And finally, we all know what is people. People as a singular noun, it means a specific people in certain organization. But people in general, as a plural noun, it's like many persons at the same time. How are these pillars staffed into an organization, and where is the people in this combination? We will see. Pillars of an organization. We have people. Your people in the organization is the deepest layer. This is the deepest layer. And we have culture around people. Then we have structure. And the outermost layer is the strategy. This is called the onion model. Onion model, you know, when you take a cross-section of an onion, and when you go deeper, it's more difficult, and you have tears in your eyes, because you will touch the blues of people, you will touch the emotion, you will touch the conflict, the personality conflict, and so on, and all the difficulty to deal with people in a business setting. Okay, so we have from outside strategy, structure, culture, then people. That's the onion model of Beauchamp and Mitroff. Mitroff is a pioneer in crisis management. He's the founder of the contemporary field of crisis management in the States. And I had a chance to work with Beauchamp, and Beauchamp is a co-author and co-researcher with Mitroff. And that's the onion model. What is the onion model? The onion model is generic and seminal. It's something, it looks very general, talking about strategy at large, structure, culture, and people, but it summarizes the organization in four concepts or domains or layers that allow us, this summary or this modeling allows us to raise many questions and provide many answers at the same time about organizational issues. The four subsystems of the organization: strategy, structure, culture, and people. And these four subsystems are interdependent and in complex interaction. In reality, strategy, structure, culture, and people are in complex interaction, mutual influence between the four layers, and they have to manage this because it's very dangerous to leave this system with all four subsystems like in a simple natural evolution. This may lead to the organizational decline, and we'll see how this onion model to compare it with the organizational life cycle in few minutes. Structure ought to support structure, and people profiles should meet the requirements of what is called contextual performance. We have task performance. Task performance is about my technical skills. If I'm a software developer, I should have computer programming skills. But how to deal with the culture fit, how to deal with the other personalities in my team, how to understand the internal conflict in the organization, if any, how to cope with the top management preference, and so on. All this is about the context, the organizational context. And this context, it takes a certain contextual performance, because out of experience, we have observed that some people of high technical background with real expertise cannot cope with certain organizational reality because of the low, very low contextual performance. So it's a matter of functional consistency. We would like everything should be consistent, going in the same strategic direction. If we talk about strategy, it's about vision. We should have a vision, even if this vision should be reviewed from time to time in order to gain a certain agility and so on, and cope with the environmental changes. But we have to have this vision, and we have to think always about the future. Structure is about design. Culture is about dialogue. We will see how dialogue as a technique help us to understand our culture. And internal communication, it's a medium or a tool of preference in order to craft culture and consolidate the organizational values. People are about matching, how to job personality matching or team design, how to ensure the harmony between the different players in the same team. Everything is about data, of course, that's very important now. And finally, all that is about organization design. So when we talk about organization design, it is not only about structure, it's about all the system with its all subsystems, means strategy, structure, culture, and people. Well, on another side, in a different type of literature, we have what is called organizational life cycle, according to Depth. What is the organizational life cycle? It's the natural evolution of any organization. We start with the entrepreneurial stage. The entrepreneurial stage, individual entrepreneurship. The entrepreneur starts its project or its new organization, its startup, and then it starts to hire people in order to help him. And this is the collectivity stage. There is a cultural emergence and development, and there is no task differentiation. There is no real division of labor. Everyone is doing everything. Then we have the formalization stage, which is also called bureaucratization stage in the positive meaning of the word. It means the bureaucratization, the division of labor, and so on. And the structure become more formal than before. And finally, the elaboration stage is about innovation, about reinventing the business, about strategic review. Now, I can say that the entrepreneur who starts a startup business or any organization without a future vision about the feasibility of his project, about designing the future, about formulating a solid strategy, but instead of doing that, he will be only engaged in some lucrative activities and thinking day to day or thinking year to year. This will lead to decline. In the fourth phase or stage of the organizational life cycle, either renovation or reinvention of the business or decline. So in order to avoid that, from the very beginning, we shouldn't follow our personality or natural preference. We shouldn't let the culture emerge in like a spontaneous or natural evolution pattern. We would like to plan and engineer everything as much as possible. We should plan, we should engineer, and we should review our plan from time to time in order to cope with the environmental change. It shouldn't be something rigid, but something agile, but planned and engineered. And we start by the strategy first. We start by designing the future. With designing the future, not to let things go in like an unplanned way or an emergence pattern. So inside out or inside in. How to avoid the psychological bias? There is a school in strategic management called the pathology school. It refers to personality disorder of the top manager who that shape the strategy of the organization. This is very negative. This is very negative that the business is influenced by the very nature of one person, especially if he or she suffers from a certain personality disorder. And this is documented and called the pathology school in strategic management after Mintzberg. So how to avoid the psychological bias? We have to have self-knowledge. You should know your bias. Maybe you have a minimal cost obsession that will influence. Maybe you have like an almost paranoid character. So your risk appetite will be too conservative to be efficient or effective in terms of opportunity management, and so on. So to avoid this psychological bias, not to start with people, we start with strategy. But the psychological bias will lead you to think inside out, which is very negative in terms of organizational building and development. How to avoid the cultural bias? Cultural bias can be avoided through the organizational dialogue. The organizational dialogue as a technique, as we will see together, is a technique to check out our basic assumptions in order to assess our socio-culture system and see how functional it is. It helps us, it enables us, or it hinders our strategic endeavor. So that's the technique. So self-knowledge is individual self-knowledge, and organizational dialogue will lead to a collective self-knowledge. How to avoid the normative structure bias? Some entrepreneur would like to have like a predefined model or preconceived model of what ought to be the best structure for such type of industry. No, we have to tailor this. We have to tailor the structure according to the reality of a certain organization, and not to copy just something in an organization catalog or a theoretical model. We have to respect reality and to tailor something, not to take a ready-made one. So how to avoid this normative structural bias? By the design thinking. So we have to have self-knowledge, We have to apply organizational dialogue in order to acquire collective self-knowledge, and we have to apply design thinking in order to tailor the structure that fit in with the very nature of our organization. And finally, we have a managerial bias on a strategic level. Even strategy is not that objective. We might have a managerial bias. The managerial bias in the literature of management, it refers to how managers consider only the benefit and the interest of the shareholders. No, we should consider the stakeholders, not only the shareholder, because the stakeholder will influence the organization, and designing, it's very dangerous to design a strategy that doesn't consider or doesn't take into consideration all the stakeholders, and that's through stakeholder analysis. So self-knowledge, organizational dialogue, design thinking, and stakeholder analysis, if well applied to your organization realm, it will prevent the inside-out thinking and will allow you to apply an outside-in thinking, starting with strategy, designing the structure accordingly, then crafting the culture accordingly, and then selecting people and training people accordingly. So structure would fit in with the very nature of our strategic project, and culture should fit in with the structure and the strategy, and people matching should be applied in a way that ensure the fit between people and the culture, structure, and strategy at the same time. How to reach this alignment of strategy, structure, culture, and people in organization? 4 steps. First of all, how to reach this alignment? Strategy formulation, conceiving a strategic plan of 5 years as an example, based on a long-term vision to be reviewed annually. And this is taken from Dr. Muhammad in his last webinar, that to ensure our agility, we have to review our strategic choices from, for example, year to year, or with any contingency or major event in our environment. Strategy formulation takes system thinking. So when we formulate strategies, we apply system thinking. And designing the structure, projecting the future organizational structure. For example, 2028, if we are talking in Jan 2023. Structure design starts with the future processes, analysis, and engineering. We always think the process first. We think horizontally. We draw the workflow. We define the process. And you can't automate bad process. You should fix the process. You should apply a good engineering of your process and your operation in order to automate it afterwards, because we can't automate a bad process. This is very important. So process engineering, maybe re-engineering, should come before the automation. Should come before the automation. The grouping of tasks into sub-function and function vertically, depending on many considerations that makes the different tasks more or less loosely or tightly coupled. There are tasks that are closely interrelated, tightly coupled, that should be regrouped in sub-function, and there are tasks that should be separated out of control, like to separate the risk function and the business function, such because there is a conflict of interest between the risk assessment and the goal to acquire new accounts, for instance. Both horizontal and vertical arrangement, can either you opt for a process engineering or you opt for a certain vertical or functional integration. These both type of arrangement, they constitute a creative endeavor that should consider 3 core categories of requirements: efficiency, to do the job with a lower cost, either cost in terms of money, in terms of effort, in terms of time, and so on, and the quality, of course, and the controls. I will give you examples, real example from real organization life. This is from experience. In a manufacturing industry, when we opt for automation, we'll use modern machines that are highly automated. So this will improve our competitiveness, will improve the quality of the product, and at the same time, it will reduce the size of labor, and will change the type and profile of the workers themselves, of the required qualification, and hence it will change the training needs. So the functional integration between the HR function and the IT, if the automation in terms of IT should be useful. So we'll have like a very senior director that ensures the very coordination between human resources and IT. Why? Because automation and people are two alternative tools to get the job done. So to get the job done, you have to apply like a mix of labor-intensive and non-labor-intensive technology. So this is, I observe it as a consultant in a manufacturing industry where the CEO opt for a functional integration between HR and IT in a certain period of time. And in a shared service model, what is a shared service model? Means I have a group with many companies, many legal entities, and every legal entity is representing like a line of business. So we have several lines of business under the umbrella of the same group or holding company. And we have shared services in order to ensure two things. First of all, efficiency, and second, to ensure that the group policy will be applied to all entities. So if some entities or line of business will undergo a digital transformation, so here we may have like a need to create a separate marketing department just for those entities that will go digital, because marketing in a digital business would differ from marketing in traditional setting of business. And we have a very simple example of something that looks trivial, the client data entry. We have many clients and we have the data entry of the client. In a consumer lending business, consumer finance, we may put this unit of data entry with the distribution function, means with the salespeople, or with the credit function, with the credit investigator who perform the credit assessment, or to put it in the marketing department itself. It depends what is our strategic view of the data usefulness. Is the data just to manage risk of default, risk of delinquency, or the data to apply a certain cross-selling and to maximize or to multiply the opportunity, the business opportunity through cross-selling. So here the data should be in the commercial department. But if the customer data is only a matter of credit and risk management, so maybe the best owner for the customer data is the credit department. Geographical expansion is simple. So you will have, if you opt for a geographical expansion, you should apply a geographical division. And then it comes a question, how far you will apply a decentralized regional management or not. It depends on the disparity of the regional market and the local market. If each region has like a different profile of customer, different need, different customer behavior, or consumer behavior. So we will opt for a decentralized regional management. So it's also a matter of strategic branding. Maybe I will be distributing or promoting different brands respectively in different regions. So I don't need a centralization. I rather need a decentralization. So how these all are examples that show us how structure follows strategy and how the structural design depends on our strategic choice. And finally, as one more example, the conservative risk appetite in unstable environment would lead to integrate the collection function with the credit. It means you are the credit manager, you assess the profile of the individual customer to provide them credit in the domain of consumer finance, for example. So you will have to assume the responsibility of collection at the same time. This will lead to like a conservative credit assessment because the impact will be in terms of problems in collection, and the same guy or the same officer or manager is leading both aspects of thing, credit and collection. So credit and collection integration will lead to a conservative risk appetite. So if our strategy, as a strategic choice, this is my risk appetite, this is my risk choice, conservative one, so I will, in my structure, I will integrate both collection with credit. But if I am working in a stable environment, I have a less conservative risk appetite. I would like to acquire new accounts. I can afford to accept borderline customers, so I will integrate the credit function with the business one, and I will opt for a separate collection function. So here we saw together many examples that illustrate how structure and strategy are interrelated. Structure clues. Focus on the purpose rather than the technical nature of the function of the task. Don't integrate a task just because they look similar or they look depending on the same type of expertise. No, focus on the purpose. The best example for that is the one that I mentioned in the first place, the integration between the IT and the HR, because this is the purpose. This is finally, those are two categories of work tools in order to get the job done, automation or people. Don't follow normative models of organizational chart. Please don't use catalogs. Don't use theoretical models, but the structure should be tailored and designed according to your strategy, your available resources, provided that you are aware of the organization principles, because this is like a skill apart to tailor structures according to the strategy. Adopt the necessary structural changes whenever you modify or amend your strategic orientation. There is no strategic review without structure review. Even if we will say, no, the current structure is fine, despite the strategic amendment, okay, but we have to review it first in order to decide if you will have like a structure readjustment or not. And finally, remember that a soccer game or a football game plan varies from a match to another, okay? So from a period to period, from a year to year, from a phase to another phase, you have to change your structure, you have to change and so on your staffing accordingly. And remember, this is the organization realm. It's a realm. It's an external environment, internal environment. It's something very complex, and organization design is beyond the structural arrangement. Organization design is about the whole webinar, not only the structure dimension. Crafting culture now. You have to define your organization core values. I have here first to start with, we have generic or general organization values. Whatever is the industry, you are in a manufacturing technology or a service technology, non-profit organization or profit organization, business or public, you have 4 core values. First of all, integrity. Integrity is about ethics. Consider other people. This is about altruism. And comply with rules. Cooperation. It means to collaborate and complement. We complement each other. Okay, that's the teamwork. That's the team spirit. To collaborate. There is no organization without collaboration and cooperation. Development, to construct things and to convert things, to apply certain change management, whatever it is necessary. So integrity, cooperation, development, and finally achievement, to complete the tasks, to complete the mission, and to carry out. Okay, complete and carry out. Amazingly, I have used 4 or 8 words with C. And we are talking about corporate culture, which is also CC. So corporate culture, CC, about 4 basic or general organization values that should be present in every organization. And finally, it consider and comply, collaborate and complement, construct and convert, complete and carry out. And this is basic. This is the general, not the special. The special, after that, it will be crafted according to the strategic choice, as we will see right now. For those Arabic speaking participant, I would like to say that these four values are coming from the same root. And I will say it in Arabic once for all. It's the 4 values are al-kamal, wal-takamul, wal-istikmal, wal-iktimal. Okay, so so this common root, whatever is the language between the 4 values, proves that there is something fundamental here. There is something fundamental. There is something that we can't deny or skip. We have to emphasize it. But now, example of special values that support specific structure, arrangement, or strategy. If you have a management by project structure, what is management by project? I am an employee. I don't have a basic salary. I have to acquire a new customer account and to manage certain project for this customer, and to internally recruit among my colleagues, those colleagues that would accept to collaborate with me as a team leader. So I am like an entrepreneur, but internally, which is called intrapreneurship. So what if you would like to motivate your guys or your employees to act as entrepreneurs inside, it means intrapreneurship, you have to consolidate the value of intrapreneurship. And you have that intrapreneurship as a value that fit in with a structure of management by project. It's not project management, it's management by project. A blue ocean strategy will take blue ocean strategy means that we will be working in an area of the market with no competition. It will take the value of pioneership. Okay, I do know organizations that have this value of pioneership. So they were like the first to perform or to apply a certain financial practice in the capital market of a certain country. A matrix structure takes the value. Matrix structure means dual reporting, means that you will have two managers at the same time. So to avoid the conflict, you have to consolidate the value of harmony, the value of consensus. It doesn't take sub-laws, it takes culture first, because this is like the relationship between ethics and law. You should have law, you should have rules, but if you don't have the culture, law will not solve all the problems. A remote work, virtual, and now working from home is like a trend. A remote work or virtual structure takes the value of autonomy, should have self-efficacy and self-discipline, which is the value of autonomy, okay? So according to your structure setting, you have to emphasize a certain value, and we'll see how. International business, for instance, takes the value of diversity, because you'll be dealing with different markets, with different people, with high diversity in terms of human resources, okay? Dialogue and cultural assessment. What is dialogue? Dialogue, it is not like something, this is technical. It's a way to understand our collective self, so creating a space of free communication. So how we manage this? We have to suspend thoughts, impulsion, and judgment. We will gather people, 20 or 40 person maximum. If more, we have to have 2 concentric circles, and people will same type of share, no management, no leadership. All people are equal, and this is to create a free space of communication without taking notes. The analyst only will take notes or to analyze the content of the dialogue afterwards. This is like a weekly session. I did attend dialogue circles in organizations. I did organize dialogue circles. I did analyze the content of dialogue verbatim, word by word. So weekly session of 2 hours for 10 weeks. We will have like 20 hours of text to analyze. No leadership. A moderator may be useful in order to introduce people to the dialogue practice as such. This is after a British physicist who is called Bohm, David Bohm, B-O-H-M. No agenda, no immediate goal, just an open subject. Our experience at our organization. You put the name of your organization. Our experience at Global Performance Management Academy. And everyone will be talking freely, and whatever it comes to his mind, he will express himself in a way with some details that I can't elaborate now in view of the short time allowed. Content analysis of the dialogue text should reveal basic assumptions and core values of the organization. You can't pretend that you know the culture of your organization without dialogue practice. Dialogue practice is like a sociotherapy also, not psychotherapy, but sociotherapy. What dialogue is not? Dialogue is not a discussion. Dialogue is not a debate. We should avoid the ping pong in communication, okay? This is called dialogue, D-I-L-O-G-U-E. But here we are talking about dialogue, not a salon. This is not about talking about fanciful thought or something like that. It's not a teamwork. We are not. There is no action. We are just talking. It is not a psychotherapy. There is no individual concern or individual issues discussed. It is not a conflict resolution either. It's a way to explore the social culture system of the organization. Unless you try it, you will not imagine it. Unless you try it, you will not imagine it. So this is like to give you the appetite to try such a dialogue circle or dialogue practice in organization. It is called organization dialogue, and it's called also democratic dialogue. Internal communication. So the dialogue is a good tool to assess the culture of the organization, and now to consolidate the new values that we would like to implement or craft or consolidate, we will use internal communication. Repeating the same message is a way to develop and consolidate values. It's the analogy of child education. Yeah, according to many CEO of big organizations of high reputation, they confirmed this statement that internal communication means we repeat the same message: collaboration, teamwork, team spirit, every now and then, and so on. So it will consolidate the values and it will shape the organizational culture afterwards. Internal communication program. We have to have an internal communication program. It's like mass comm, but not applied to the society, applied to the little community inside the organization. So employee events, theme, HR video, and so on. You have to have like a policy and a content of your internal communication plan, because we can craft culture. There is two schools, maybe an almost French school who say, no, culture, we study culture, but we can't craft culture. We can't engineer culture. But the Anglo-Saxon school says that we can build a culture, we can develop a culture, we can implement and consolidate certain values, and I am, as a pragmatic guy, with the second one. There are other means in internal communication, like the behavioral incentive, HR policy, and so on, but maybe less important. Many people, finally, we have strategy, structure, culture, and then people. Job psychological engineering means that we apply, when we select people, we have to check out 4 categories of job requirements: the theoretical background or knowledge background, the field experience, the previous field experience, the technical skills, and finally, the personality and the psychological factor. So matching people is very important because we have, according to that, task performance versus contextual performance. So task performance means I know my job or not. I have the skill or not. I am a software developer. I know the computer programming language or not. I have an experience in such programming or not. Okay, but this is the task performance. Contextual performance, I am apt to cope with other people inside the organization or not. I have a culture fit or not, and so on. So we have to consider both, not only the job, but the context around the job, because this is very important. Strategic challenge and types of intelligence. We have 4 types of intelligence, according to David Curti, who is an American psychologist, a contemporary psychologist, who passed away in 2013. So we have strategic intelligence, diplomatic intelligence, logistical intelligence, and tactical intelligence. So when I hire a country manager for a certain multinational company, I have to ask about what is the strategic challenge? What is the mandate? The specific mandate, not the normative job description of a CEO. He will be facing a new competition, or he will be undergoing a certain technological innovation, or he will be facing an internal conflict among the key directors. It depends. The type of challenge will define the type of mentality that we would like to see. Quickly, in 1 minute, if you know about the crisis related to the Syrian refugee for the border states, namely Lebanon, Jordan, and Turkey. Without details, and according to a PhD thesis of a colleague of mine, the crisis management advisor to the respective governments of the 3 countries, despite that we are facing the same type of crisis at the same time, and we are talking in the domain of governance and the domain of advising public policy, the Turkey case needs a guy of strategic intelligence. Lebanon case needs a guy of diplomatic intelligence, and Jordan case needs a guy of logistical intelligence in view of the situation and the stakes, and either the government is facing multiple issues at the same time, or a single issue is the issue of the refugee. So the same crisis, and we are talking about the same job with the same normative description, but the type of strategic challenges implies that we will opt for different types of intelligence. And here we see clearly how the selection of people should be aligned with the strategic challenge and our strategy in managing such a crisis. Structured personality matching, the shared service model that I mentioned before. When you have a group with shared services, IT department shared, finance department shared, HR department shared between different line of business and legal entities. So when I had the experience of hiring an MD for a legal entity in a shared service model, but the guy declines the offer because he is too conscientious. He needs control to afford that vital function like HR, IT, and finance are like out of his control. He would like to have a hands-on every single function in the organization in order to assume the full responsibility. So the personality, the very personality as a psychology of people, doesn't fit in with the type of group structure with such shared services. This should be clear in your mind how this fit should be ensured. And finally, the cultural fit. It means that if I am a guy with a high economic value, I have a commercial awareness, I appreciate money gain, I can't work in a non-profit organization who is doing like community service, not for profit. This is a lack of, this is a very aberrant example of lack of cultural fit. And finally, team design, personality to personality. I'm be competent, and my colleague is very competent too, but we can't work together. There is a problem in our types relation, personality types relation. That's about the 4 pillars or the 4 subsystems of the organization. And I would like to give you a brief list of the steps that you have to take in order to put this into action. Organization management cycle. Design the future. Imagine Naomi Stanford is an authority in organization design. This is after her. Design the future. You have to think about your strategy in the future of, let's say, 5 or 10 years and so on, and imagine and design the structure accordingly that you would like to reach in this period of time. assess the actual organization setting. You have to have a solid assessment and to know your reality now, strategy, structure, culture, and people, and to analyze the gaps between what you would like to do in the future and your present capabilities and your present states of things. Plan the action. It takes an action plan, okay, to build the organization in the period of 5 or 10 years. So you have to make phasing, like every year you will break down your goals, you will break down your projects year to year. And you have to implement the plan to measure the implementation results year to year and review the organization setting. You review the strategy, you review the structure, you review the culture, and you review the people matching. And you learn from experience in order to opt for a certain adjustment or another. And finally, you redesign. If there is a need to redesign things, you will redesign things. So the only thing I would like you not to forget after this very short period of time, 45 minutes or 46, that we build organization and we think about organization outside in and not inside out. Don't follow your personal preference. Don't follow your emergent culture. Don't follow a normative structure taken from the books. You have to tailor everything and to select everything in order to ensure this consistency, starting from your strategic choice, your environmental reality with all the due feasibility studies, and then you will design the structure accordingly, you will craft the culture accordingly, you will select people and train people accordingly. That's all. Thank you so much for your good listening, and I hope that I delivered the message, and I am ready to receive your questions, if any. Dr. Muhammad, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Ala. Well, this has been very informative. Frankly, among all the presentations that we have hosted in GBMA, this is the first time that really digs deep into what we need to do in terms of the soft aspects of implementation, which is especially culture. This is the first presentation we present on culture and strategy. Thank you so much for this. And we have few questions. Most of them are in the Q&A. So, Doctor, if you don't mind, if you open the Q&A, we have Mr. Salah Aboud. He has several questions. If you can kindly just go over them and, shed some lights on the answers for these questions. I would like to assure the participants that usually all our speakers are generous enough to share the presentations with the audience, and I trust that Dr. Ala will do the same thing, so we will be happy to convert if he allows us to do so.
I do agree, Doctor. I do agree. I will be happy to share it. Yes.
Allah yabarak feek.
So if I understand the question of Mr. Salah Aboud, it means that you'd like to say that with massive hiring, maybe psychological engineering will be less efficient. We have to set priorities. So we have key position, the most important one. So we have to spend time and to invest time and effort and technique in order to ensure the best fit. And after that, the mass hiring, maybe if we are hiring similar position with the same required profile, it will be easy to have this in a relatively shorter period of time than the key position that should take a very specific arrangement. I'm not sure if I answer your question or not. For artificial intelligence, I am thinking seriously in collaboration with a data scientist, but we didn't reach a solution yet about how to automate job psychological engineering with AI. It is not a secret, I will say it. we can check the correlation between the data on Facebook and the data on LinkedIn. If we have pairs of profiles, it means that every individual has two profiles at the same time, a Facebook profile and the LinkedIn profile. So if I have the right access right, okay, to explore this data, and I have like 100,000 or several millions of pairs of profile, Facebook and LinkedIn, with an AI technology that would check or generate rules about the correlation between the socio-personal data and the professional organizational data of LinkedIn. This I will allow with the result that the normal business guy who is not necessarily of a psychological background can relate, can predict the organizational performance and the professional performance in terms of according to the available personal and social data. So this is the very concretely, because I have hands-on in this domain, so I gave you a concrete answer from a project that is being thought about to apply AI on job psychological engineering. I hope that I answered your question, not another. Dr. Ala, Mr. Salah Aboud, can I book you for 15 or 30-minute consultancy from an aspiring entrepreneur? I will do it on a friendly basis. I will do it. You will not book me. That's on a friendly basis. I can do that for you if you want. You have to refer to the Global Performance Management Academy to get my contacts if they allow it. Can we receive the recording or PPT? Yes, of course. I mentioned that. How can we not follow the normative models of organizational chart while minimizing the risk of depending on calibers rather than a process? For example, if a caliber can work both operation and hiring, or similar now, both departments are depending on one person, it's a higher risk for the company. No, there is some practice that complement what I mentioned in this webinar. We have a succession plan, having a successor for every key position, a retention plan for those most important human capital elements, even like kind of resource dependency analysis as applied to human capital management. So we do that in the reality of organization. And when you integrate two functions like the HR and the IT, you have a full IT manager with all the due technical competencies, and you have a full HR manager with all the due technical competencies. But you have like a senior director who is integrating both functions under its authority or umbrella in order to ensure a specific strategic coordination that is very critical in a certain period of time. So you always, it's like the plane with more than one engine. So even if you lose one engine, the other two engines will make things going safely at least. So you have to have this crisis management setting, even when you deal with people in big organizations. What do you recommend as an approach towards applying internal dialogue? Internal dialogue, it's an approach on its own. It has a very specific technique. It's the dialogue circle organized with 20 or 40 people. There is the departmental dialogue and interdepartmental dialogue. and so on. After critical events or big project or crisis, we need to apply dialogue to learn from the crisis, because a crisis, by definition, that's something that happens in many places at the same time, and sometimes in different times at the same place. So when you gather all people with a certain technique, well-defined technique, you can have like a complete view as much as possible of what happened in order to learn from the crisis. Kindly share the contact info, Dr. Ala, too. Okay, I will leave this to Dr. Muhammad, but I don't have inconvenience. Yes, sir, thank you. Subject is very interesting. Thank you, thank you. Is there any personality test for organizational structure? Personality test for organizational structure. We analyze the personality apart. We use 7 tools. There is a classification of the normal personality structures according to the American Psychiatric Association. And there is David Kerr's reconfiguration of the MBTI, and there is the DISC classification, and there is what's called socionics about type relation, and there is the traditional IQ assessment, and there is also the big 5 that assess the openness and the neuroticism, among others, okay? And we will try to, and there is also the sub-language preference. The person is auditory or visual and so on. And we try to have like, no, I can't pretend a complete view, but a rich view of the personality. And then we analyze the job, the initial setting, and we'll see, this is it's 8 by 6, 48 hours training for about people management psychology and job psychological engineering. Okay, so that's the answer of your question, but I don't have time to elaborate.
Allah barik feek, Doctor. Thank you so much.
Thank you, doctor.
This was really truly informative, and I'm sure that many people are very eager, the participants, to have more of your sessions. And I think we should schedule one about job psychological engineering very soon, inshallah.
Inshallah.
And I would like to take this opportunity to ask all the people who are attending tonight, if you can share with us name of the experts who the GPMA can invite for our future events. We will be very we will appreciate it a lot. So please don't hesitate to drop us a line of who we can invite for our future sessions. We have already scheduled the next 8 webinars all the way up to end of November, alhamdulillah. And if Dr. Ala allow me, I would like to announce for our upcoming very specialized training program in innovation management and leadership, which will be delivered by Dr. Nader Nada from United States. And Ahmed, if you can please share the slides. Dr. Alauddin, allow me.
Yes.
This is the Innovation Management and Leadership Program. This is the first time we offer this program virtual. It will be Zoom classes for 6 sessions. And inshallah, it will take place in October 15 to November 2nd. And we would like people who are interested in design thinking, crowdsourcing, business model innovation. These topics will be discussed in detail during this training programs. And in fact, it's offered at an extremely special low price as a first time introduction. So I encourage people who are interested in this subject to visit our webpage. I will ask my team, please, to put the link for the information page for this workshop, Innovation and Management Leadership. The certificates will be issued by GPMA. Can you scroll, Ya Ahmed, please? So this is the outline of the course. Okay, scroll down. Yalla, Ahmed, please. These are the main topics, Yalla. If you go down here, Ahmed, you know, innovation ecosystem, innovation strategic planning. Ahmed, if you go to the topics, please, Ahmed. Yes. Innovation process and design thinking, learning organization, knowledge management, open innovation, and crowdsourcing. And during this workshop, we will have guest speaker. Several guest speakers will be coming to speak about real life, you know, example like Dr. Isabel and Chris Boulevard from United States, and myself about strategic planning of innovation. So I would like to encourage all of you to, inshallah, look at this website. Can you put the link for the website, please, Ahmed? And this is the fees for the program. It's 6 live sessions, 3.5 hours each session. So about 20 hours of contact hours. And GPMA is announcing for a scholarship. You can attend this program free of charge, completely free of charge. If you participate in a scholarship, we offer a scholarship. 4 seats, 4 people will be admitted to this program without paying any fees. If you participate in this competition, and the competition will be asking you to search for business model canvas, good examples, and share them. So you search for the business model canvas, you submit them, and then we will be selecting the top 4 winners. The top 4 winners will attend the program for free, and the remaining people who participated in the competition but did not, make the first 4 top positions, they will be getting a very good discount. So I encourage you to go to our Instagram. This is the Instagram. We put it in the chat. If you go to the Instagram list in the chat, you can see the details about the competition and submit. You don't have to do much. Just search in the internet for good business model canvas examples and submit them, one or more. And inshallah, you will have the opportunity to attend this program for free and save $600, which is the fees of this program. The GPMA Academy will be announcing for a scholarship almost every month. Last month, 50 people participated in the competition, and they won free seats in our strategic planning, certification. I would like, before we conclude, to thank all the participants. Assure them that we will be sending you tomorrow or day after tomorrow copy PDF of the file of the presentation of Dr. Ala. We'd like to thank him very much for his time and the effort and for allowing us to share this presentation. Also, the videotaping of this presentation is recorded now. It's recorded, and we will send you the link so you can watch in detail this. Before we leave, it would be nice that the participants of this program share their location, where you work and where you're from, so we can get an idea, and people would like to know where the participants of this program, come from. This would be very nice. And also share with us name and contact of a guest speaker that we can invite for our future events. Dr. Ala, we are truly grateful to you. Thank you so much.
I'm grateful.
For being very responsive. From the day we met in Medina almost 4 weeks ago, you were very welcoming to the idea, and we very soon scheduled this event, and I'm sure many people liked it, and you can see in the chat how people really appreciate your nice presentation. Thank you a lot. Thanks a lot. And we will leave the chat open for you to share some comments, and don't forget to visit our Instagram in order to learn more about how to participate in the scholarship, and inshallah win the opportunity to participate in the innovation leadership and management course for free, inshallah. Shukran, Dr. Ala, and I wish you all the best, and thank you for all the participants. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We will leave the chat open for a while. If you need to drop us, any line or information that you would like to share with us. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.